I'll be completely honest. It was pure luck. I had never shot a high school football game or anything, and by the end of the football season, I was shooting in the Jaguars Stadium.
Welcome to Profession Session with Brody Vincent. Got my guest Andy Varnes here of Varnes Media Company.
Yeah,
Andy, great to have you.
It's great to be here. This is awesome. So it's a nice little. So this is actually the third try we've done this. So
Third come around, and we're actually recording this out of Andy's new studio. Congrats on the new studio, by the way. This place is awesome.
I appreciate it. It's obviously the walls are still pretty blank and everything, and we gotta put some more work into it and everything. But we'll see where it goes.
It's coming together, though.
Yeah.
So we'll get to talking about the studio a little bit more because that's pretty pertinent to kind of what you're doing with your business right now. But I want to start with just kind of explaining what you do. You're in photography and videography, of course. How did you first get into photography and videography?
So I got started in photography, videography in college. I was playing basketball. I got hurt. The coach he gave me an opportunity to stay a part of the team, and by kind of doing stuff like that, doing more like manager type stuff, and the photography aspect of it was part of it. So it was a huge blessing in the end. And then when I came back to Jacksonville, I really wasn't planning on doing it anymore. I planned to just go to school, get a business degree, and kind of keep on going. But I got caught up in doing like high school football, and then it just kind of built from there.
So, how did the high school football thing kind of get started? Were you just kind of going out to games for fun, or
so that's a kind of a funny story. The way it worked is we actually had like a family friend. She was like the team mom of a high school here in Jacksonville. It was Terry Parker High School, and she asked, "Hey, can you come out and get some pictures for the team?" Because they had a photographer come out apparently, and he did like a terrible job.
Gotcha.
And so I was like, sure, happy to. Well, just so happens I'm taking pictures during the game. The high school they're playing against, they're like, well, who are you taking pictures for? And I'm like, I'm just kind of out here. Yeah. And they're like, well, can you get pictures of me? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And so I was literally selling pictures and to both teams, and for like $1 a piece, like $1 a player, and then
very
I give
accessible.
them all. Yeah, exactly. I give them all the photos for like $5. And in a matter of probably 6 weeks or so, I had 10 schools calling me, and it was the players that were actually calling me. It wasn't the coaches or the athletic departments. They didn't even know who I was. So I would literally print out fake media passes to get into the games, to get onto the field and everything. So it was definitely kind of a fun time.
So you would print out a fake media pass just to kind of look like you were an official media guy out there, like coming to take pictures for the team.
I'd go in, I'd find the school's logo, and I'd put the school's logo on there, and then I went and got a little lanyard with kind of got it all laminated, and that was kind of what I did. And for the 7 or 8 schools that I was shooting for, that's exactly what I did, to where I had these just fake media passes.
Just
and I mean, you got like moms and dads at the front gates and everything, so they're not going to think twice about anything. So
yeah,
that's advice to anybody. If you're trying to get out there, just act like you've been there before, and they'll let you in.
There you go. So now you're taking pictures for a few different high schools, and I guess it kind of just starts to build as like a word of mouth thing from there. There's more and more of that happening. And as I know just from talking to you off air, you also do Jaguars games sometimes. So how did you first get into that? Because that's obviously a much higher level than just doing the high school games. It's past even the collegiate level. What did that look like?
I'll be completely honest. It was pure luck on that first thing. Somehow or another, I had never shot a high school football game or anything. And by the end of the football season, I was shooting in the Jaguars stadium.
Wow.
So it was just kind of by luck.
Any fake media passes there?
Yeah, no fake media passes for that one.
That might not fly.
Yeah, that one they would have caught me on, but it was like a Saturday night. Apparently, like there was one of the photographers for a magazine got sick, and so they called me like, "Hey, do you want to shoot it tomorrow?" And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." And so that's kind of how that happened. And so we were in the stadium for the last game of the season, and then I used those photos to kind of build out from there. And I DM'd every player that I took photos of and sent it to them. I sent it to different magazines to show, okay, here's some of my work, and just hope they didn't ask for more.
Yeah. So it sounds like you were, for both of these cases, just in the right place at the right time and did a good job, followed through, talked to the right people afterwards, and just kind of cemented your place in there.
Yeah, that's kind of exactly kind of what happened, to where, if you're out there being active, usually that's where luck will find you.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I've kind of gone by is, I'm I honestly have lucked into so many different opportunities just by being at the right place at the right time. But the reason I was at that right place was because I was just out there doing work. I was out there doing either free photo shoots or very low paying photo shoots just to get my name out.
Yeah, getting your foot in the door early. So that, of course, is how you got started. That is the sports photography and videography side of what you do. As I know, you do all kinds of stuff though now, and that's kind of built up over the years. How did that expand from the sports photography to other areas?
So yeah, just kind of slowly built one on top of the other. So it started with photography, and then it quickly moved into videography, which that's what I actually found I like more, is kind of telling those stories and everything. So whether that would be
Cool.
On the football field, to where I was making kind of the game highlights to where it looks like something that you'd see like a game recap on ESPN with some dramatic music in the background, to wedding videos, to telling a story of a company. I really enjoyed that part of it. And so that was kind of the second step of it. And then the third step of it was essentially slowly taking on actual marketing for different companies and social media marketing, and understanding kind of that realm of everything.
And so you kind of got started just doing little side jobs and things for companies that were outside of the scope of the sports photography field, kind of expanding from there. And then that has built into being very marketing focused, like you said. So when did you really decide you wanted to make it official and make it a company, start Varnes Media Company, rather than just making this kind of a side gig that you're doing?
So on the LLC, it says 2019
Okay.
was officially when I started. It wasn't Varnes Media Company. I went with Real Time Media, like RELL Time Media.
I remember
The issue, the issue was nobody spelled it correctly, and everybody thought it was like a fishing reel company.
Yeah.
So
Not
obviously,
great for SEO.
Yeah, that was not the best idea.
Yeah.
So probably about a year into it, I switched the name just to Varnes Media Company, and so it was about 2020 or so, which literally was the start of the pandemic. So that was definitely a fun time to start everything.
There you go. Did you find that the industry was affected much by the pandemic? I haven't really ever talked to you about that, I guess, but did you see much of a change in that, or were you still able to find some pretty consistent jobs, maybe more outdoor?
Yes and no. It was yes and no for sure, because any corporate type commercial structures, no. But that is when I really started making connections with different athletes.
Cool.
Because they were just kind of out there putting in work in the middle of a park. And so that's kind of where I got that. I remember, so I shot my cousin's wedding. She texted me one day. She was like, "Hey, are you doing anything like this upcoming Saturday?" And it's like Thursday. And I'm like, "Yeah, no, what's up?" She was like, "Can you shoot our wedding?"
Yeah.
We've just had it during COVID. We don't want to wait any longer. We're just gonna go up to a park real quick, get married, and then leave. So I'm like, all right, cool. And then that ended up actually like going all over social media, made like national news and everything. It was really
Really?
cool.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a fun. They didn't the news people didn't tag me though. I was like, come on now. Oh, we
Sure,
tried,
that
but
happens sometimes.
yeah, but
At least you
yeah,
know.
it was definitely kind of an up and down thing. It gave me an opportunity to get to kind of step out though, because everybody else said, all right, I'm just gonna put everything on pause. Well, instead of saying I put everything on pause, I said, okay, what are some ways I can work around this to try to kind of get ahead of the game to where when we come out of this, I have all these new clients that are wanting to get work done.
I think there's a deeper point in there. I love that perspective on it. I think there's a deeper point in that through any kind of hardship or shaking up of the market, as long as you can kind of think creatively and be looking for opportunities and adapt well, you can really find your place and find your footing with your company and just kind of move into doing something that's more conducive to the market conditions. It sounds like your company really didn't miss a beat because you just were out there continuously adapting and looking for more opportunities, and they were out there.
Yeah,
As they
yeah,
pretty
absolutely.
much always are.
Absolutely. I mean, and we'll see. Obviously, there's times coming to where nobody will not kind of knows what's going to be happening over the next few months. So you're everybody's going to be in the exact same position again. So
It's very true. So we kind of talked about how the company evolved from just sports focus to adapting some other things. As I kind of know from the side, I know that you'd specialize in a few different areas. You mentioned weddings as well. What would you say the company is kind of broken up into if you wanted to kind of label it into a few different sectors as far as the specialties?
so in 2021, we sat down and kind of looked at everything, and it was literally almost broken up into perfect thirds to where I mean I'm talking it was like between like 31 and 33% for each category, and it was commercial, sports, and weddings.
Commercial meaning doing
Anything dealing, yeah,
commercials,
commercials for
content for companies.
businesses and
Cool.
everything. So at the time, it was all freelance. So it was $1,000 commercial here, $2,000 commercial there, and just kind of slowly adding. And then there was like a little portion that was kind of for photo shoots and everything, and it just kind of showed how small that market has gotten for our company.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there's something to be said about the longevity there because the photo shoots is something that kind of comes around more sporadically, I would guess, but doing content and commercials for big corporate companies, that's not going anywhere. That's always going to be around. The sports photography, the weddings, always going to be around, and lots of opportunity there. So you mentioned that it was mostly freelance there. How has that evolved? And that was 2021 you were talking about, right? Where that was split up that way.
Yeah, so this is completely recent. We're on essentially year 3 of the business, and each year we're trying to build and evolve. And I sat back for 2021, and it we hit our goals, we hit our all of our revenue goals and everything. But I looked, and it was this uptrend, but it was it was up one month, down the other, and it was kind of this uphill downhill trend because I mean, especially in our industry, is it for what I was doing, it's strictly commission to where, you
There's
could
no
be doing, yeah,
guarantee.
you could do, and it's almost guaranteed that if you have a really big month, one month, the next month's going to be really, really slow.
Now, why is that?
Simply because, you have your list of clients that, they know and they want to work with you and everything. And, it might come to where they all want to do they want to do something in the exact same month. And so for that month, you are as busy as can be, getting as much stuff as possible. Well, then they're not going to be wanting to do something else for another 3 months, something like
Gotcha.
that. So that following month, it's always going to be, it's always going to be slower. And I was looking at it and I was like, I don't want to base my career off of this kind of uphill, downhill.
Kind of
trends. Yeah.
volatile. And you were looking
Yeah.
for a little more consistency.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with getting a space kind of like this, getting, bringing more people in house to where, I was like, all right, I want to make sure that I can afford to pay people and pay them a good wage. And we hit the point to where we really needed a place to work out of. So we needed a consistent income that came every month, no matter what.
So, having that realization, what are some of the moves that you started to take to move into a little bit more consistent model like that?
Basically, all I did was I realized, okay, we have to get onto subscription based services, and so I reached out to the different clientele that I had and said, would you be interested in this? Almost as a disc, instead of shooting a commercial for you for $1,000 every 3 months, you pay us, $700, and we'll do a commercial for you every single month.
Gotcha.
So they get a pretty big discounted rate, but we know, okay, every single month we have that going in. And so you have that, as well as, basically we moved into just strictly brand building, social media marketing, as a whole, because that's one thing I noticed was, okay, I mean, it's my job to know what the trends are and to know kind of what the next segments are, because that's what our business is, but they obviously don't. They're focused on their actual business, and we would basically do a commercial for them, and they'd post it. They do like one post every month, and it's kind of like, all right, the work we do isn't isn't working well enough for you all to be worth it for
It's
you.
not being fully utilized.
Exactly. It's not
either.
it's not being fully utilized. Exactly.
So you have moved into not only actually creating the content for them, but also kind of helping them post that out over a little bit more consistent schedule on their social media.
Yeah, absolutely. That again, that's definitely something that we're working on, to try to understand all the systems and everything. This is, we're going on close to 5 months now of working with this business model, and so far it's done really really well with working, because each client and company is completely different. That's one thing when I went into it, and that's the reason I turned, cause I turned a lot of stuff down beforehand, because they said, hey, can you do our social media stuff? And I'd probably been approached by 4 or 5 different companies about doing it, and I said no. We do strictly just the actual content stuff. We don't want to be a part of the actual postings and figuring out when to put, and kind of the actual kind of more of the marketing side of things. We just want to create the project, and then y'all focus on pushing it out and getting it to your people.
That's interesting because it actually I think there's a parallel there. It reminds me of your story of first starting out, where you were starting to realize, oh, I'm getting a lot of people just asking me to do this. Maybe this is a viable thing that I could just keep doing. So you, I guess, start to realize a lot of people are asking me to do this social media stuff for them anyway, and they're not necessarily doing it the best on their own. There's a big opportunity here. And, taking that and thinking of the subscription model, I think it's a really brilliant move on your part, because it allows you to do a lot better planning for the company.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, being able to say, okay, we have this coming in every single month, and then we also have this freelance work coming in every single month. So basically, what I try to do every month is keep all of our expenses under what we get in the subscription marketing. So everything else is strictly surplus and profit. So that's kind of the game plan of everything.
I like it. I mean, it sounds like it's working better for you. Seems like you're able to think more big picture with that kind of covered. You know that the expenses are covered and everything. I do want to talk a little bit about the space, kind of getting up to that point now that we've kind of worked our way up to 2022. So you took on this space very recently. Talk a little bit about the decision leading up to getting this space for Varnes Media Company. what some of the influencing factors were there and what your plan is for using the space going forward.
Yeah, so I've been looking for a space for months, probably the last 3 or 4 months, and the issue I kept kind of coming to was, we I was looking at very much, a lot of smaller places, and I just didn't see I mean, obviously everybody know, like, rent prices are through the roof right now, and I was going to be signing like a 3-year deal for an office space that I couldn't necessarily grow out of. We've grown pretty well in these past 2 years, and so it was either, okay, get a really high rate to use a space for 1 year, and then hopefully we grow and then be in the exact same position next year, or get a 3-year rate for just a place to work out of, and basically kind of plateau. And then I found this space, which was a little bit, I'll be honest, it was a little bit out of my price range for my original thinking.
A little bit bigger than you were expecting to.
Yeah, a lot bigger than
Yeah.
I mean, about 1,000 square foot bigger.
Yeah.
So it's but it gave an opportunity for an entire new market to kind of come into play. As I mentioned before, photography what almost is non-existent to this point. Basically, the only time we do it is working with the actual clients to work with their social media, getting some pictures and everything. But actual sessions and everything, that doesn't necessarily happen anymore. So this gives us a whole opportunity to build that back up and to kind of build our brand back into it.
Because this is going to be kind of a studio space where people can come and have pictures or videos taken. And one thing I think is really great about that is, and this is kind of a common thing for business owners when they're first starting out, is that, where you do end up getting a space that you're working out of, is that before, I remember you just driving around all the time. You were just, constantly going all around town, going to this client, then this client, taking up a lot of your space, just traveling. And obviously that creates a limitation to how many people you can service. But having a place where people can come to you and have that done for them, and you could have someone working here helping you out and helping kind of service some of those people, that all of a sudden opens up the floodgates and allows you to really expand there.
Yeah, absolutely. The amount of efficiency that happens when you get into an actual space is crazy. I had no idea how much time I'm saving now when I'm
So another thing I wanted to kind of ask you, what is one of the biggest challenges, or maybe even a few of the biggest challenges that you've had over the past couple of years as you've been trying to scale the company?
The biggest challenge for me is probably standing out. In our industry, it's extremely saturated. I mean, everybody knows 5 photographers that that do something of the sort, and they have some sort of talent level. So it really is just saying, okay, what makes us different, which is something that you have to continuously adapt, because as soon as you do something different, you're going to have people right behind you that are going to start doing the same thing. And so then you're going to have to figure it out again and slowly adapt again.
So just kind of continually finding a way to set your company apart, do something that the other photographers are not doing that could give you that edge.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in every kind of transition of our company, it was kind of standing out in a different way to do something that we have never done before. I'm thinking of different examples to where in Jacksonville, I was one of the first companies to go out and do like the highlight videos of the games. And it looks really, really cinematic. It looks like something you would see on a movie. And
I've seen them; they're great.
Yeah,
they really are. Yeah,
yeah. So that was one of the first. And again, and so then the next thing was, okay, then people started doing that, which again I'm 100% for. I feel like you should be getting, I get things from other photographers and I get things from other YouTubers to say, hey, we can incorporate this into our business. So I'm all for, kind of picking out different things to say, hey, how can I make myself better and everything. So I'm all for it. So the second thing that we did was we started doing mic'd up stuff, which was a really huge hit. We started doing that with Birch Sports, who is a longtime friend and client that we've worked with and everything, and they've done great. But we started miking up the players and everything, and that
During the game.
yeah,
Right?
that kind of exploded. They went viral on all of their stuff and everything, and everybody loved them. Everybody was having a blast getting mic'd up and everything. So that was the next big thing, and then I'm trying to think, and then like obviously moving into I'm assuming that more and more after we begin to expand, more and more photographers are going to and videographers are going to get more so onto this content subscription basis, which
Absolutely.
it's a great idea to do. So
Well, it's got to feel good when you do see something that you've adapted as a company starting to spread into that mainstream of photographers and videographers, because it probably means you're on the right track with something.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's one or two ways to look at it, and I'll give a little shout out to a friend of mine, Eli Elmore. We were having this discussion the other day. We both kind of came up into the industry together. He actually was the one that kind of initially taught me the photography aspect of everything. He got into it about 2 years before I did. But we were talking about, so when we first kind of started coming up, it is a really, really competitive industry. Nobody wants to share secrets. Nobody wants to kind of help you out a little bit because they're scared of you taking clients.
And they want to have that edge.
Yeah,
that
they
competitive edge.
exactly. So we've really made it a point to share the knowledge. He's really huge in the photography industry here in Jacksonville about sharing everything that he's learned, and I'm very big on if I can help a videographer or anything like that, helping them with whatever they would need with ideas, saying, "Oh, you could do this with this lighting. You can use this edit. This is kind of a great thing to do." I think it's really a responsibility to kind of help the overall industry grow.
Give back to the
Yeah,
industry. I agree.
yeah, exactly. I mean, there's always going to be enough work to go around. The amount of companies that have decided to move into the social media stage to where they've put it off, like we work a lot with different kind of construction type companies, and that industry is way behind when it comes to social media, which is a very good for anything that has a trade or a skill. You very rarely are you going to get work based on how your Facebook or your Instagram looks. So
Gotcha.
so it's basically working with them on, okay, how does this actually provide value? How does this how does this actually help you make money? Because that's really what our goal is supposed to be. We are supposed to make you look better.
So, how does that conversation look then if that is a potential bottleneck of the industry? Is that, I mean, I could see that as a potential rebuttal that they might have in your sales pitch for a subscription model, that they say, hey, well, we don't really get our clients that way. What does that conversation look like for you then, and you kind of explaining the value that you are bringing when, it sounds like you're kind of getting them to buy into a little bit more of a long-term vision, which as people who know the industry a little bit know, there is a lot of value in there. What does that conversation look like for someone who might not understand that as well?
Well, the first thing I would tell them is, look, it's the way I we kind of run the company. It's not like other social media marketing agencies to where it's a very cut and paste type industry to where it's saying, okay, we'll do 3 posts with this graphic and everything. And in all honesty, it's very, very difficult to grow on social media platforms now, doing that strategy, because everything is going to look the same. So we have to figure out a way to have a consistent model, but also have it customizable enough to where each company is always going to be very, or well, maybe not very, but a little bit different than the next. To where, okay, like I already mentioned, like Birch Sports. So they're a football training company to where they do trainings, and they have a nationally known 7-on-7 football team with ranked players. And so the way we work with them is going to be completely different to the way we would work with a engineering company that we've worked with. It's complete different clientele, complete different goals. So when I would walk into a place to where, let's say, they're not necessarily, but that marketing isn't necessarily the big focus. Well, the first thing I tell them is, look, we're not, our goal is to make you look better. Right. It's not necessarily our goal to get you more clients, but what we will do is get you in front of more people. It is up to your company, though, to make the sales.
Right. Okay. So you are focusing on really the awareness aspect and saying, hey, you're doing a great job with what you're doing right now. Although we think we could take you to that next level and just spread the awareness of your company to a higher extent than you would be able to just by word of mouth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I mean, especially in any type of skill industry, very few things people just type in on the internet now and says, hey, I need this. It's always, you put on fit, you ask different people, hey, do you know of a plumber, electrician? It's some sort of graphic designer. Does anybody know anybody like that? Well, it is our job to get you into those sectors. So by
more easily found.
Exactly. So that is by putting out a commercial that doesn't look like every other commercials, to where it looks like an infographic. It is by trying to tell your company's story, trying to show the same reason that we have to say we have to completely adapt and look different. It's our job to make you look different compared to any other business like yours.
Help other companies stand out the way that you help your own company stand out.
Yeah.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So it's not necessarily kind of a cut and paste system to where each client I come in with a sales pitch. I'm honestly the opposite of a salesman. I'll tell them I don't think we're a good fit. Honestly, if not, it's more so is there something there that we can take and run with it? That's kind of the ultimate thing. Okay, if it's a business that's not a very good business, I honestly don't feel comfortable with working with you if I'm going to be promoting to do work with when it's not satisfactory work.
Because you're putting the name of your company on it, so it should be a good.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a quote that I read the other day. It said, if you don't want to work with a person for 10 plus years, then don't even try to go into business with them at the start. Which I've really tried to look at a lot of the stuff differently. Obviously, we're to the point now to where we can do that. At the very beginning of your business, you take all the work possible, So, but at this point, it's saying, okay, how can we find the right people to grow with and to work with? What I really look for is companies to where they have all the right pieces. They just need a little extra push to where they've established in their actual industry. They have a successful business. Now they just need to show everybody how they are a legitimate business, how they are better than others.
I like that, and I really liked your point about thinking about, is this a company, a person I would want to work with for 10 years? Because I feel like it'd be hard to hold yourself to that standard when you're just looking for clients, but it really is important, because if you're going to be putting your company's stamp of approval on it, your name on everything, you do really want everything to look good and kind of reflect back on you in that way. So I think that's a good focus to have. Another thing I wanted to ask you about, something we've kind of talked about before, is, as you've kind of brought on a couple people to help you out behind the scenes, I know a very common difficulty for business owners is figuring out how to delegate and kind of creating that pattern of management. What have been some of the challenges you've had there as you've kind of scaled up in that way?
Yeah, so the there's definitely a good amount of challenges when you first start bringing people on, because you're either a micromanager or you're the complete opposite. And I tend to definitely lean to being the complete opposite, which doesn't always go over well, which is completely understandable. Like a good example would be, I'm very much of the type to, and I think you might have been able to notice this already just with talking, is I see the idea and I say, okay, here's some clay, and I'm just going to take it and run with it and mold it into whatever I think is going to be best. So when I first started bringing people on, I would do the same thing. Like, all right, here's the footage. Here's the footage we got. Go make something cool.
Do it.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
So obviously that was a bit of a learning curve where, okay, I have to really, really work on saying, all right, stay creative with it, but here's some guidelines to kind of go by. So,
And I would imagine, obviously, at the start, there's a good deal of work involved in really like walking someone through the creative process and how you want to do things. But ultimately, if you teach a man to fish, they're going to be able to fish on their own. And then they can kind of bring value to your company over time based on that little bit of work you put into them.
yeah, absolutely. Teaching, and again, this is me talking to myself, because I am the furthest from saying this is something that I'm good at. This is something that I honestly really struggle with, to where, I'm it's very difficult for me sometimes to kind of incorporate saying, okay, this is exactly kind of what we need. This is exactly kind of what I'm thinking, and here's kind of the guidelines to go by. And it's never it's honestly it's almost always my fault that I did not communicate well enough when something goes awry.
I think that's a good perspective to have as a business owner, because, if you're just getting frustrated with whoever's helping you out, but you didn't really take the time to show them how to do it the right way, what use is that? If you have the perspective of, it's my responsibility to make sure they know how to do it right, that's going to keep you on your toes and hold you to a high standard just internally.
Yeah, and if anybody that listens to this that has worked kind of under VMC, then they'll probably attest to it that communication is not my greatest skill set in, trying to say, okay, here's everything. And honestly, my two biggest weaknesses right now is communication and that organizational piece that goes along with that communication. So, and I'm very, very open about it, saying, okay, those are the two things that really this year I really want to get squared away and to get completely mastered down. It's other sides of the business, obviously, you're working on, but in order for us to really grow, I have to figure out, okay, a regimented plan that everybody can be working on, saying, here's the specific roles, not everybody's kind of working on their own thing and kind of doing whatever. Everybody has specific roles, specific kind of time stamps going in on it. We're all kind of working as kind of a machine kind of going into one.
So you're building out new processes, basically.
Exactly. So, again, not saying we have figured that out yet, because we obviously have not. Honestly, I have Marcel. He's working in the next room right now as we speak, and he came in today, and I was like, oh shoot, what work do we need to get done today? I'm like, all right, here you go, and it was like kind of like an on the fly thing, which obviously is not the best thing to do in the long run. It needs to be much more organized and regimented. So
it's just about kind of figuring that out over time as you go along, and kind of setting some processes in place, it sounds like. Another thing I wanted to ask you, just kind of a general question here. You've been a business owner now for a couple of years. What would you say is one of the most rewarding things about being a business owner?
Probably when a client is just blown away. That's really, really good to hear, knowing that, okay, not only did we hit expectations, but we kind of blew them out of the water, which is kind of what we go for every time. The amount of hours that we put into the actual kind of planning of everything is, is a lot more than what people think. And the kind of amount of work on the back end is a lot more than what people think. It's not just kind of just showing up, shooting, and then kind of figuring it out from there. And a lot of our stuff is to where the client puts their trust in us to say, hey, we don't really know exactly what we want. Y'all figure it out. And I take that challenge and run with it most of the time. And so kind of saying, okay, basically taking that statement and then creating a project, creating, something and showing it to them, and they're like, wow, this is absolutely amazing. That's a really good feeling right there. And then honestly, just it's strange to say, but just kind of the working the day-to-day operations, just getting a little bit better every day. Getting, right now we're renovating the studio and everything, and and it feels really good just knowing, okay, we checked this box off. All right, well, even though we got this hundreds of items to get done on this list, it's really nice to say, hey, we checked all these boxes off and we got a little bit better today. It's always a good feeling going home knowing, okay, we improved.
Hitting those little benchmarks of growth along the way that, like, this is really paying off. The business is getting bigger and better. That's cool. Mm-hmm. So, aside from the business, I know you're involved in a number of other kind of entrepreneurial efforts. I'm curious, kind of on that note, I happen to know that you get pitched a lot of different ideas and have to kind of weigh those out. What does your decision process look like if you are deciding whether to take on a new kind of entrepreneurial effort, kind of weighing out the decisions, maybe the pros and cons? What does that decision process look like for you?
Yeah, so that process, and again, it's still something that I'm continuously learning because as we've built and everything, I have been approached by a bunch of different individuals saying, hey, I got this great idea and we should go in on it together. And I'll be honest, I've really let people down in the past because I spread myself too thin. And I'll completely own up to that, to where I put too much onto my plate. At one time, I think I was trying to run. I was a part of and trying to help him. Like, I think I was like 5 different businesses at one point.
It's a lot.
And I was still
Mark Cuban over
here.
Yeah,
yeah. I was. They weren't profitable businesses though. So but I was doing that and still in school, and I was burning out so quick. And so now I'm very careful about what to look for and the idea and everything, and I've really kind of gotten it down to, in all honesty, it's the biggest thing is the person that I would be going in with it, the business with it. Am I 100? Even if I'm not 100% positive, I'm not going to go into it. I have to be 100% positive that, okay, this is a person that, when you go into actual business saying we're going to do something together, there's no end date to that. There really isn't. There isn't saying, hey, we'll do this unless it's obviously if we do like a one-off thing, that's a different thing. But if you want to say, I want to partner in with you, and I've made a lot of this mistakes in the past, saying that means you're going in with it for the long haul and everything. And
it's often compared to a marriage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're going into kind of a marriage-like situation, and the little things that might bug you about a specific person, well, when you're together 24/7, those things pop out a lot more. So that's definitely something that you kind of learn along the ways. But when it comes to what I look for now is obviously the people, and then the second one is how much time I'm going into it. Is okay, well, is it actually worth my time anymore, because I'm involved in other stuff already that looks to be on a profitable scale and say, okay, I know this is what it's going to look like in the end. So if we're going to do something, it has to at least make up this time and probably more if I'm going to put it on my plate.
Yeah.
So,
Totally.
and then the final thing is, okay, I know what I can bring to the table. I know what equipment and kind of keys to the industry that I know I can kind of do. The little bit of the connection that I have. I know what I can bring. What can you bring? If all you can bring is an idea, that's not much.
So, another thing I wanted to ask you is, about just kind of the client acquisition process. What are some things that have worked well for you? It might not be as applicable now, but for someone kind of early on in the process, what are some things that worked well for you when you were getting started and you were looking to just expand your client base as far as, acquiring or finding new clients to work with?
So our greatest way that we gain our clients is word of mouth, honestly. That is predominantly most of it. We get some from social media and everything, but it is so and so seeing a commercial that we have done and they ask, "Hey, who did that for you?" That is, predominantly kind of how we've gotten everything. So in all honesty, it is getting your work out there, making sure it is good work, and then kind of letting organic growth kind of take it from there. So even if everybody, hates on saying you should never do, free work or very low paying work, well, it's better than doing no work. You have to show people what you can do somehow. Even if you do the first one free, knowing, okay, well, this means, okay, we've done it. It shows I can do it. And here's my price now.
There you go. I like that. And then, on that same kind of vein, talking to someone first starting out, wanted to ask you if there's maybe one or two big pieces of advice that you could go back in time, just take a time machine, go back and talk to a younger Andy that's first starting out, kind of fresh on the photography and videography field. What would be like the one or two biggest things that you would tell him to kind of prepare him for the next couple of years ahead?
It's really hard to think about because you almost don't want to say, well, I'd say don't do this or don't do that, but you don't know what actually has kind of put you in this position. So I would more so, I think I'd give advice to someone just getting into everything is it's really, really hard not to be successful when you're the hardest working person in the room. That's really the only way that really the only way I know how you can kind of get ahead. It's not it's not a it's not a hard thing to do. It's a very simple task. It's not easy to be the hardest working person, but it's pretty cut and dry.
Look around you. If someone's working harder, work harder.
Exactly. This kind of goes back to it goes back to more so in athletics. I always thought that I was working hard, and then I got up to college and I realized that, okay, in this little pond, I was one of the hardest workers, and I'd be first in sprints and I'd look like I was all right and everything, but then I got up there and you can really see the difference between someone that was the hardest worker in their little pool and someone who actually worked their hardest. Mm-hmm. That's really difficult to do, to where you
Well, it could be easy to be a big fish in a small pond.
Yeah, exactly. And everybody said about what's the work that you're doing when nobody's looking? Well, that statement right there is way overused, because it is just so important of what you're doing when what are you more so what are you willing to do that others won't? Are you willing to not go out and party and drink with your friends? Are you willing to get up earlier than everybody so that you can get a head start in the day? Are you willing to put yourself into uncomfortable situations so that you can learn and grow? That stuff is it's really it's A to B. It's saying yes, I'm going to do it, or no, I won't. It's very simple. It's a very simple plan. So
Just a decision that you have to make, though.
yeah, it's just a decision that you have to make. So if I could give anybody advice, it's you're make yourself your hardest critic, and just make sure that you are giving it your all into whatever you're trying to do. So because I'm really young, and everything. I'm 23, but there's still things that I'm going to regret for the most of my life because I didn't put forth my effort into it, and it's not a good feeling, and I don't want to have that feeling from here on out.
There you go. And you kind of made me think of one more question here, actually. Talked about a little bit there about athletics and how some of the athletic mindset has affected your work ethic and your business. What are some other ways that you think some of the lessons from being in a high level of athletics have transferred over to your business life? And would you say you're pretty acutely aware of that, or is that something you don't think about as much? Or
Yeah, I know that athletics, it's always played a really huge role in my life. So I think it really, really helped me when I got into this stage of life of kind of trying to do business and everything, of really using my time to my advantage. When I stopped playing basketball, I realized I was like, wow, now I have, 10 hours of free time now that I'm not really using, and this was literally, that was the first time in my life that I had, because literally growing up and everything, it was, soccer season rolled into football season, it rolled into basketball season, then it rolled into summer season, and it just kind of kept to where you went to school, you went straight to practice, you came home, you did your homework, you went to bed. Like that was, and then on the weekends you're playing games. So that, and so it was, so just getting into that regimented lifestyle and just kind of keeping it, I think it helped me, dramatically, because I already had that structure kind of in my life, to where instead of putting sports into me, I literally just kind of took sports out and plugged in working.
I think what I've observed from being around you is that it seems like the athletics really gave you this base of discipline that has, the basketball went away for the most part, the discipline stayed, and you figured out a way to channel that discipline into your business, and that work ethic of just always trying to get better and improve on your game, which now your game is your business. So I think that's the biggest thing I've observed.
Yeah,
It's really cool.
and I will say, I'm much better at this side than the basketball side.
Yeah.
Short white guy. That was a tear. I should have gone into tennis or golf or something like that.
He can jump, though, ladies and gentlemen. He can jump.
I cannot jump whatsoever. I'll stare at the camera right now. I cannot jump. It is it's a rough sight, but yeah, absolutely. And again, this isn't me saying that I'm the hardest worker. I'm very, very far from it. The only thing I know is, in order for me to succeed, I have to put in work. That's it. And as of right now, I'm trying the best I can to do that.
Well, I love that. I think on that note, we can go ahead and wrap this up. Andy, thank you for being here. This was a great conversation.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. I like the
Great to be in the studio.
First time, kind of using the studio, and hopefully the next time you see it, you'll see a nice, more of a backdrop, more something that looks a little bit cooler. So
always improving, I'm sure.
So, all right. Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
All right. This has been Profession Session, signing off. Thanks for watching Profession Session. I'm your host, Brody Vincent. You can find us on Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, or TikTok at Profession Session on all channels. You can also find my guest from this episode at the tag and details of this post. Stay tuned for new episodes and short little clips of deep dives into specific topics across all of our channels. If you know a young standout professional business owner or entrepreneur with a unique or interesting story, DM us anywhere and let us know, and they may be the next to tell it here on Profession Session. Until next time, stay focused, stay hustling, and stay networking. This has been Profession Session.